So I just got through installing this T-vent window on the back driver's side of the van. This is a crew van, and so it came with the front driver's side window, but this T-vent I just put in. I learned a few things that'll make this go a lot easier, so I'm getting ready to do the other side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to videotape and walk you through the whole thing and tell you the things that I found that will make it a lot easier when you go to do yours. So I'm getting ready now to cut out the passenger side rear quarter panel window. This is a 144 wheelbase Sprinter van. And I learned a few things. I already did the driver's side. I learned a few things that I'm going to share with you to hopefully make it a lot easier for you and make this side go a little bit smoother. First of all, I'm a little bit further along in my build than most people when they put in the windows, and that's because these windows were on back order, and I just got them yesterday. So I've already done my benches, I've done all my solar, I've started to rough in my plumbing, I've got my upper cabinets, my benches. You know, I've got a lot of it done, but I left this area open so that I could do this after. And really the only issue is that you're going to get a lot of metal shavings, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to keep that to a minimum. So I've watched quite a few YouTube videos and they were helpful, but I want to share with you a couple of things. So first of all, I watched a video by a company that installs the windows, and they used a reciprocating saw, a little bit smaller one than this. They used a one-handed reciprocating saw. They said they used a really fine-tooth blade, which is this is like a 28 or 30 tooth per inch blade, metal blade for thin metal. The problem is you can see here it's fairly wide. It's probably 3/4 of an inch wide, and I wasn't able to make the turns in these corners, like here, up here, and in the front. And so the other thing is, the nice thing about cutting from the inside, and you need to use a reciprocating saw if you cut from the inside, is you can just follow this cutout all the way across, go straight across here, and it makes it, in theory, easy to follow that line. But what I found is it was hard to, with the reciprocating saw, it's just harder to see where you're cutting. It's more, these saws, a Sawzall is more for rough cutting, you know, getting, you know, when you just got to cut through something to get out of the way. It's not as precise as a jigsaw. So on the other side, I cut the bottom out and it just was pretty rough. And so I switched over to a jigsaw and cut from the outside, and that worked a lot better. So if you do see some videos where they're using a reciprocating saw, if you want to give that a try, go ahead. But I tried both, and I thought it would be better to cut from the inside and easier. You know, it keeps you from having to draw lines and punch out the outside and everything, but it actually is easier this way. So first thing you're going to want to do is you want to have a metal punch, and this is what I've done is I sharpened up the tip on a pretty narrow punch, and you want it to be a metal punch. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to go around, and you don't have to hit it very hard because it's going to make a mark and it's going to show through on the other side. So all you got to do is just put it here, right, and just follow this cutout all the way around. On the corners, you're going to want to put your punches pretty close together, like 1/4 of an inch apart. When you get onto the straights, you can do them 2 or 3 inches apart. The reason you can do them pretty far apart here is this is a straight line. So when I get to the outside, I'll show you, but I'm going to be able to just lay a straight edge on this and just put a line all the way across it. So you don't need a lot of marks on the top and the bottom. Now as I get to this corner, I'm going to do them about every 1/4 inch. While I'm still in here, I'm going to show you what I do to catch all the metal shavings. So this is 3M pre-tape painter's plastic. It is 4 feet wide, and so what you can do, and this is really convenient, is you just run this across the bottom like this and do a little bit of excess all the way down and on both sides, and then it just pulls out, and it's 48 inches wide, and it'll cover everything up. Okay, so you can see right here the punch marks. So on the corners you can see how I did it really close together, and I can see those really well. And then on the straight areas you can see it, and then up top you can see it again. They're real close together. So now I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the dots basically with a Sharpie. So what I'm going to do for the straight areas is I'm just going to lay the straight edge right along these dots all the way across, and I'm just going to draw that line all the way across. Okay, see, that goes right through all those little punch marks. Then on the corners I'm going to freehand it. And again, your glass is going to come all the way to here, all the way over here. So it's going to cover all this up. So you don't have to cut it perfect. You know, and like I said, a little bit too big is better than too small. Okay, so I can see my line comes up here and I can see the dots. So what I'm going to do is line up with the line and then with the dots. And here's my dots up at the top, right there. And I'm just going to follow that right up to there. Those lines line up pretty well right there, and then I can just draw that line, and then I'm going to freehand it again around this corner. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this off. You don't have to tape it off if you don't want to, but I recommend it. The paint does scratch pretty easily, and so it's just going to protect it, even though this is all going to be covered. Okay, there we go. We're ready to cut. So I know for a lot of people this is the scariest part of it. The whole van build is cutting a big hole in the side of your $40,000, $50,000 van. And it is scary, but after doing one of them, I have to tell you, you've got so much extra area. Like I said, all the way around the edges, that's all going to be covered. Really, my first one where I tried to cut it with a Sawzall was pretty rough in spots, and I went back after and with a disc sander with a metal disc and got it smooth. But really, you really have quite a bit of leeway, so there's really nothing to worry about. I know a lot of people will spend $200 or $300 having somebody install, and that's per window, $200 or $300 per window. But really, it's not that hard. So the important thing is to have the right tools for the job. So I'm going to show you. First of all, you want to have a jigsaw. And I really, really recommend this Milwaukee. It's the M12. Let me get this turned around. The M12 Milwaukee. And it's cordless. And I like it because a lot of them are more shaped kind of like an iron, and a little bit harder to maneuver. This one is really easy. It also has a rubber base, so a lot of people, you know, when they're doing this, they tape up the bottom so that they don't scratch the paint. But this is really nice because it's actually a hard plastic base. And then you want to have the right kind of blade. This is a Diablo. I would recommend either Diablo or Bosch. A blade for thin metal. See right there, thin metal, and this is a 30 teeth per inch. So they measure, you can see really, really fine. I don't know if that'll focus that closely, but 30 teeth per inch is a lot of teeth. So I used a brand new blade on the other side. I'm going to use a brand new blade on this side. So I'm going to pop out the old one and put in a new blade. Okay, so you can use a drill bit, but these are really nice. They'll cut through metal, and you can really make the hole whatever size you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all the way around from here, and then I'm going to cut to here, and I'm going to leave the top open so that basically as I cut all the way around, it's hanging from that top piece, and then I can just hold the bottom, cut across the top, and it'll drop out. Okay? so there's one that's big. So what you want to do is you don't want to try and drill the hole right on the line. You don't need to do that. Drill here and then just kind of work your way around. Now there are those steel vertical things on the inside, and you'll feel it kind of get harder to cut, but it'll still cut right through those fine. All right, so I've cut all the way around and I've just got this little part left. So this is what you want to do is you want to just leave a little bit at the top. And so now I can grab a hold of it. Okay, so I've just got a little bit hanging on here. I'm going to get a hold of it. There we go. So there it is. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just file it down to make it smooth, get rid of the rough edges and the burrs. And then I'm going to paint it with Rust-Oleum. All right, so I've got some Rust-Oleum. Let's see, it's the gloss white. You want to use the enamel. And that'll keep anything from rusting. So I'm just gonna hit the edge with that and we'll give it an hour or so to dry and we'll be ready to install the window. So now I want to show you something that I think you'll find really helpful. It did for me, and that is to pre-drill the holes. For this. So it comes with the window, and then there's this steel frame that goes on the inside. So the window pushes in from the outside of the van, and then this steel frame goes on the inside, and you screw these in, and it pulls it tight. And it's got this rubber gasket that when these get pulled together, it pulls that tight against the outside of the van and seals it off. So you don't need any butyl tape or window seal or anything like that, which makes it really nice. But it is kind of tricky to get these screws in the van. And if your drill slips, then you scratch the paint, or you can strip out the heads really easily. So I really recommend that you pre-drill these holes. Here's what you want to do. If you can see here, I'm going to try and tilt this up. See that little groove right there? That's where the screws, so the screws are going to go through these and into these little grooves. That's where you want it to hit. And so if you line up this metal flange beforehand, you can kind of look down through the holes and you can see that little groove. Get it here, and you're going to want these two to meet up and butt right up against each other, where these two pieces come together. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to drill this one in. Okay, so I got that one. And then I'm going to make sure that this side is lined up right, and it is. I'm going to butt it right up against there. Then I'm going to pre-drill this one. Okay, so I've got those two pre-drilled. Now I'm going to go around and I'm going to actually put a couple of screws into this one first to make sure this all is in the right spot. And they don't need to be real tight. They just need to be in there enough to hold it. Then I'm going to do this one. Okay, so now those are in place. So now I can go ahead and I'm just going to pre-drill, and sometimes you'll have to push this into place so that the hole is centered over the groove, because that's definitely where you want your screws to go. So I'm going to go ahead now and just drill all the way around. Okay, so now I'm going to take these out. The two screws that I have holding it in. Take the ring off. And then I'm just going to vacuum all those metal shavings out of here. We're ready to fit this thing in. It's just going to lift up and right onto this metal slider all the way up. Kind of towards, like up towards the top. Hold it up here and push in. All right, so I got it in and got while Lisa was holding it from the outside, I got a few screws in the top that are going to hold it in place. And now what we're going to do is just go around and put screws into all these holes. The pilot holes that I drilled ahead of time are going to make it a lot easier. And so you just kind of want to first go all the way around and get the screws started so they're just kind of snug. And then you're going to slowly just kind of tighten them down a little bit at a time so that you don't tighten one side and pull the other side out. And what happens is this ring pulls the glass in tight to the van. So I've got a few started across the top. I'm just going to keep going with this and just get these so you can see. I'm just going to snug them down so that they're holding the glass in place. I don't want to make them too tight yet. And it's real easy to bend this ring if you tighten them too much all at once. And so that's why I'm just barely getting them started at first, and then I'll go around and tighten them down. Just make sure they're all lined up right, and then I can tighten them down after that. So with each screw I put in, it just pulls it a little bit tighter. And what it's doing is compressing that rubber gasket. But it's hard to do all at once. It doesn't really compress easily. So that's why you kind of just got to get the screws in and just get them all in there, snug down. And then as you start tightening them, it's going to pull it tighter and tighter. So it starts out with a pretty good gap between the ring and the frame of the window, and in some places it's like maybe 1/8 of an inch now, and so I'm just slowly tightening them down until it's tight all the way in. You can see it. So that's it. So I think the important thing is just take your time. Make sure to have somebody pushing on it from the outside, because when you first put it up there, it sits into the window, and then you put the ring in, and in a lot of places the ring won't reach far enough for the screws to catch. So you need somebody pushing from the outside so that you can push from the inside and compress that gasket down a little bit and get the screws started. Just get them started all the way around, and then just start working your way around, tightening them more and more, and it's just going to slowly pull that together until the ring and the frame are flush. So that's it. Hopefully that helped, and stay tuned for more videos.